You have a spotlight on that thing?
You're all set.
Okay, thank you. So please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Trustee Cheney,
Here.
Trustee Lindberg,
Here.
Mayor Newhart,
Here.
Trustee Bachman,
Here.
Trustee McManus,
I'm here.
Mike Mosher,
I'm here.
Stephen Gaba,
Present.
Pursuant to Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021 permitting local governments to hold village meetings remotely and to take such actions authorized by law without allowing the public to be physically present at the meeting due to safety concerns related to the Delta variant of COVID-19. The Village of Warwick Village Board meetings will be conducted virtually through Zoom video conference until further notice or until the expiration of the law on January 15th, 2022. To view the meeting, the public may view the meeting live on the Village of Warwick, New York's YouTube channel. The public also may view the meeting a day or so after its completion by going to the village's website, villageofwarwick.org. And to comment during privilege of the floor only, comments may be sent to the village board prior to the village board meeting via email to clerk@villageofwarwick.org or mail Village of Warwick, attention village clerk, Post Office Box 369, Warwick, New York 10990. Please indicate in your correspondence that you wish to have your comments read during privilege of the floor. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And this evening, we have a public meeting on traffic issues and parking issues, and we do have at least one invited person that will speak to the board. So just. So with that, Raina, if you could read the public notice.
please take notice that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick will hold a public hearing on the 15th day of November 2021 at 7:30 p.m. at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York 10990, on a proposed local law number 3 of the year 2021 entitled "A Local Law to Amend Village Code Chapter 135, Vehicles and Traffic, to add safety traffic regulations and traffic control devices." The purpose of this local law is to promote the public health, safety, and welfare by amending Village Code Chapter 135, Vehicles and Traffic, to add traffic safety regulations and traffic control devices. A copy of the proposed local law is on file in the office of the village clerk and available for inspection by interested persons during village clerk's business hours. Pursuant to Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, permitting local governments to hold meetings remotely and take such actions authorized by law without allowing the public to be physically present at the meeting due to safety concerns related to the Delta variant of COVID-19, members of the village board will attend the meeting via Zoom video conference. The public hearing may be viewed live on the Village of Warwick, New York YouTube channel. Interested parties may submit comments to be received by 4 p.m. on November 15th, 2021 via mail, attention village clerk, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York 10990, or via email, clerk@villageofwarwick.org. Comments may also be made via YouTube during the public hearing by going to the Village of Warwick, New York YouTube channel.
Very good. So I did receive a email, and I'll read that as before we really get going. So Mayor Newhart, thank you for taking the time to speak to me. I'm sorry. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me this morning. The changes that have been made to the parking on Spring Street are going to cause a serious hardship for my business, as well as Lido Cleaners next door. The space in front of my door is where my customers both drop off and pick up the vehicles, which is most important for my seniors and others with mobility issues. There are no issues making turns from McEwen Street at the parking, as the parking attendant has stated. So he's completely wrong about that. A solution that I think would please all would be a 15-minute drop-off area that would work for Fisher's Auto Repair as well as Lido Cleaners. I have been in business for 24 years. In all that time, there have only been 2 instances where parked vehicles were damaged by other passing motorists. One, which was recent, was on a Saturday when I'm closed. There is not a vehicle maneuverability issue on Spring Street. The beer trucks make turns off McEwen Street multiple times a week with no trouble. There is, however, a speeding problem and a stop sign running problem. Painted white lines would be helpful in reducing stop sign running. As I write this email, no less than 4 vehicles have run the stop sign at a high rate of speed. Again, thank you for your time and cooperation in this matter, John Fisher. So if John is in the room, if you want to invite him in, that would be great. John, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay. We have an image of maybe the back of your computer or something.
Really? Are you sure? Huh? How about that? No?
Nothing's
You should
changed.
have me.
But we have your voice.
Okay. All right. If that's good enough for you,
That's fine.
I can get my tech guy in here if you want to wait 1 second.
It's up to you.
Hey, Chris, they don't see me. They see the back of the computer. Sorry, guys. How's that?
Ah, there you go. Beautiful.
There we are. I apologize. Sorry for wasting your time. So thank you, folks. Thank you for hearing me tonight. So as I stated by email to Mayor Newhart, my seniors, others with mobility issues, park in front of my store. Pretty much all the vehicles that are dropped off or picked up are done directly in front of my door. It would be difficult to not have that parking there, at least on a 15-minute basis, because I have to bring the seniors from across the street. Michael had suggested, well, why don't you have them pull into the parking lot? That doesn't work because you can't make a U-turn in my parking lot. So now we'd have these people pulling in and backing out onto Spring Street, which would even be worse. Like I said in my letter, I've been here 24 years. I don't see a problem. I don't even really understand what precipitated this. The Lido Cleaners next door is taking a pretty good hit with COVID, as most of us have. They are a pickup and drop off business, and that is a no parking sign hanging in front of their door. I think there's probably a better solution. Interestingly, I looked over all your proposed changes, and you missed a serious problem that is on Spring Street, and there's no mention of it. I don't know if many of you have ever taken the opportunity to drive down Spring Street and try to make a left or a right onto West Street. There are almost always vans parked on the first 2 parking spaces in front of Halligan's on West Street, making it nearly impossible to see the traffic light. So you have to inch out and inch out and inch out until finally your bumper is nearly on the yellow stripe before you can see the traffic light, at which time a kid in a Honda passes you 40 miles an hour. So that's something that needs to be addressed. Maybe eliminate those 2 parking spaces. That is a serious safety issue. The other thing about parking on Spring Street is Spring Street has become the bypass for Main Street. As many people go down Spring Street to beat Main Street as actually come to do business. It's not usually a problem until there's an issue with the train signal or the traffic light. And then West Street gets backed up and the people that are frustrated come down Spring Street at a high rate of speed. I know that because I'm standing in the road oftentimes when it happens. When there are cars parked on Spring Street on one side or both, it has an effect on them. They drive slower, maybe because they're afraid the door's going to open up, but they do drive slower. And that is a help. Also, as I stated in my letter, the stop sign is run constantly. As I wrote that letter, 4 vehicles ran the stop sign, one of which was actually a Village DPW truck. It goes on all day long. I've talked to the police about it. They're great. They come out for a while. They write some tickets, but they can't stay there forever. We need stripes in the road to locate or to identify the fact that there is a stop sign there. I think some people don't see the stop sign. I think other people just assume that no one's watching and they can fly right through, but it's an unsafe situation. And strangely, eliminating the parking and making it that much easier for people to drive that much faster, it makes it more dangerous for me. Any questions?
Well, I just want to comment about the striping. I agree with you very, very much so. There is, I went down and looked, there is no broad white line as to where you should be stopping your vehicle, and there is no crosswalk. And a crosswalk definitely tells you that there is, pedestrian traffic at that corner. So I think it would be very important for us to simply do that, because I think it indicates all those things, and it may stop some of that traffic. And I agree, as we have more traffic on Main Street, Spring Street, Railroad Avenue, these secondary streets become the secondary thoroughfare, but also a lot of traffic. And so, we're looking at that. I mean, in essence, I think some of the changes are because of that. But what you're saying makes perfect sense as well in terms of traffic calming. There is always that comment about when you have cars parked in a narrow street, or if you make the streets narrower, then people slow down. So that's definitely true. And I believe this board definitely wants to be business friendly. And my thought is, in lieu of, I think we should move on all the other parts of what is proposed, but I would prefer if we hold off on this particular piece and re-examine it and make a determination after, once that has been re-examined and, looked at carefully.
Okay. I believe a 15
and that goes with your thought about a 15-minute drop off.
Okay. I mean, that would work for us. Since I first realized this was an issue, I started trying to make a conscious effort of watching what went on in the street. And I don't see a lot of vehicles making left-hand turns off McEwen Street. My desk faces the intersection, and I've spent 24 years sitting there kind of looking at it. If you would reevaluate the parking, my 15-minute parking request. At the same token, I really hope you would reevaluate changing the parking on the north side of West Street, to the east side of Spring Street. Those 2 spaces that are in front of Halligan's on West Street, there really shouldn't be any parking there at all. You just can't see the traffic light. That's a dangerous spot.
The reality is you can't, if you're coming from McEwen Street on Spring Street and getting onto West, both ways, it's very difficult to see oncoming traffic,
Yes.
And it's very, very difficult, and you just have to inch out very carefully. And you just can't see somebody coming, down the hill.
No, there is no doubt that's a dangerous spot. It's so much so that, I spend a lot of time driving daily because I'm road testing cars, as do my employees, and my employees won't pull out of my parking lot and make a right anymore because they don't want to have to deal with that intersection in a customer's car. So, I mean, that is something that should be looked at. That's all. I would appreciate if you guys could help us with this. 15-minute parking, I think would make someone happy anyway, and it would still give my seniors a place to park closely so I can get to them and have the vehicles dropped off and picked up, I think, in a safe manner.
Board?
Yeah, I have just a couple comments. Again, I'm going to take responsibility for this. The no parking signs went out before the changes were approved, and I'll take responsibility for that. And that's why Mr. Fisher was aware of what was happening all of a sudden. I think the reason for this proposed recommendation is just the narrowness of the street, as the number of streets in the village are. The street width is about 27 feet wide, with cars parked, along the Halligan side, probably 9 feet or so. So you have like 19 feet to drive on Spring Street. It is a busy street, and what Mr. Fisher was saying, the traffic has picked up on Spring Street. Unfortunately, throughout every place you drive, the awareness of a stop sign deludes everybody. Very few people stop at a stop sign anymore. People travel faster on any highway now. And, for those couple reasons, I don't think a 15-minute spot is a good idea for Spring Street. Years ago, there was a 15-minute spot right in front of the cleaners. That was eliminated. I don't even think that was in the code, actually. Trustee Cheney came up with a pretty good recommendation to have, if we have a 15-minute spot, put it on the other side of the street to replace one of the first meters on the Halligan side, the east side, with a 15-minute. It'd be close, obviously, to Mr. Fisher and Lito's cleaners, but I'll certainly agree with the mayor. We need to look at maybe a couple other items on Spring Street. Mr. Fisher brought up some good points there. I agree with those, but I'm not convinced that a 15-minute spot makes sense there. We have two 15-minute spots in the village. One's on South Street, one's on High Street. I could name off the bat probably 4 or 5 locations that would love to have a 15-minute spot, in front of a coffee spot, a pet salon. I mean, there's a number of folks that would be very convenient for their customers to have a 15-minute spot in front of their establishment. But on the same note, I don't want to take away parking spots either, legitimate parking meter spots. But we'll take a look at it.
Bill, I appreciate your time. And like I said, I've been here 24 years. There hasn't been an instance where vehicles parked on both sides of the road have created an accident, created traffic that you couldn't get through Spring Street in greater than 30 seconds, other than maybe the Halloween parade, or like I said, if something happens to the railroad signals, which is rare. Rarely is, it's not the FDR. Rarely is there traffic there that that doesn't get straightened out in a matter of 30 seconds or 45 seconds. It hasn't been a problem. And again, moving it 15 minutes. First of all, let me digress a second. The meters were the greatest thing that ever happened to Spring Street, because prior to the meters, commuters used to park where the meters are. They would park at 5:30 in the morning, and they would walk to Burger King and take the bus and go to the city, and the cars would be there all day long. So now with the meters, that doesn't happen. That's been a great thing. So eliminating the meters or moving a 15-minute parking spot to where the meters is, that doesn't help. I'm looking for the 15 minutes so my seniors don't have to cross the street. And, 25% probably of my customers are seniors, and out of that 25%, probably half have some mobility issues. So having them park across the street, whether it's 15 minutes or a meter or not, doesn't do us any good. Having them park in my parking lot and then having to try to back out onto Spring Street, that's certainly unsafe. And again, going back to the history of my 24 years there's no instances, there's no problems. And if there's a problem, I mean, if there's something that I'm missing, I'd like to know about it, but I certainly don't see any problems.
Well, and that's why it's important for us to take a fresh look at it. And I appreciate you writing to us and also being here tonight. It's great.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you for your time, folks.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So, Steve, is that, if we go forward with the motion that's on the agenda, can we redact or remove that one piece so that we can take another look at that?
Yeah, you can always, if you have a local law that you have your public hearing on, remove a part of it as long as it doesn't substantially change the nature of the law. You
Right.
can't add things to it except for minor grammatical corrections, things like that. So your resolution is going to read, adopt the local law as amended. The amendment being, and you should specify it when the motion is made to delete, I think it's, what is this? Section A3, I think. Section 2A3, if I'm not mistaken. Adding Spring Street west from West Street to McEwen Street. Is that right?
Right, yes.
So if make a motion to adopt local law as amended, the amendment being deletion of section 2A3, I think you'll be just fine if you want to move forward tonight.
Okay. Very good.
Steve, then you would have to do another public hearing
Yes, if you
adopt
want to, if you
to
want to add,
changes.
well, it would be an amendment to the code to add whatever it is you're going to add there. If you're going to add something to make 15-minute parking, or I don't know, if you wanted to include it as written now, you would have to adopt another local law on B&T.
And then another public hearing.
I beg your pardon?
And then another public hearing.
Yes, but if you
Okay,
want
no.
to amend this now to make whatever changes you want, you'd wind up with another public hearing anyway. So either way, you're going to wind up with two. The difference is
Okay.
you have these changes in place now rather than waiting.
Yeah. Good question, George, in terms of
Thank
procedure.
you.
Okay. So any other comments from the board? So could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
And a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Again, thank you, John, for being here this evening. And you can watch and see how the board takes action. Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you, Michael. Have a good night, folks.
Thank you.
Aye.
May I have a motion to accept the following reports: October 2021, the Clerk's Office, Justice Department, Department of Public Works, Treasurer's Office, Credit Card Account Transactions Detail, Building Department, Planning Board, ZBA, and ARB.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And a motion to accept the minutes of October 18th, 2021, and November 1st, 2021.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And authorization to pay all approved and audited claims in the amount of $462,885.77.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And there's no police report this evening. Under correspondence, we have a number of letters. The first I'd like to read. It's a letter from the Village of Warwick's Water Billing Clerk Diane Shorter. Dear Mayor Newhart and Village Board of Trustees, I'm writing to announce my retirement effective January 31st, 2022, with my last day of work being January 28th, 2022. It's been a pleasure to serve as water billing clerk for the past 20 and a half years for the Village of Warwick. Thank you for the opportunity for growth that you have provided me. I will miss everyone, and I wish them the very best. Sincerely, Diane Shorter. And thank you, Diane. I don't know if I can find the words for the service that you have given this village. You seem to have the finger on the pulse of everybody's water issues. So you've done a remarkable job. You've been a great ambassador, and you've had to deal with some tough customers along the way, but you've done it with grace, always with grace. And we appreciate those 20 and a half years. And they've all been with me as mayor. So I'm truly grateful to know that I can come in the doors in the morning and someone is in control of your desk and the issues that surround water billing and water issues. So thank you. And from the board, I thank you. We also have a letter from the Village of Warwick's building inspector, code enforcement officer, Boris Rudinsky, requesting to hire a part-time assistant to the building department. And board, you may comment on that. Let me just finish the last correspondence is a report from the village attorney, Stephen Gaba, and village engineer, David Getz, regarding the application of St. Anthony's Community Hospital for a special use permit. So if you'd like to comment on either of those, but let's start with maybe the code enforcement officer.
Well, I guess first off, there's no money in the budget at this point, so we would have to find some money somewhere. And it also is a civil service position, so there's a process we have to go through to do that. That Raina understands, and she also understands that it's not necessarily a simple process either. So those things need to occur. It seems like what's being requested is a part-time position. I just want to make sure that it's a position where there's no guarantee of any number of hours, that it's basically a per diem, and the individual, as there is work needed for that individual to do, that those are the hours that are spent to do it. Just those are a couple of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think the critical part is that it's not this has not been a budgeted item particularly, but I do understand in terms of the amount of activity in his department, there is a lot of building and just general activity from homeowners, but also we have a number of large developments on the horizon and on the close horizon, and that is Village View, Warwick Meadows, the last phase of Warwick Meadows, and then the Kennedy Apartments. And so that is definitely going to be very consuming for code enforcement and as a building inspector.
I think the rationale that he presents is pretty reasonable as far as it not being, I agree there's no money in the budget, but we could always start a process and hire somebody effective June 1st to put him in place, but I don't think you're going to find somebody to do it per diem.
Is this position more administrative, or is it a similar qualifications that Boris has?
This I can't tell you, Corey. I think that's, we might want to have that conversation with Boris. I do believe there would be an administrative aspect to it, but I believe also there's other pieces that would be on the, going outside and doing inspections.
He would need certifications. He's saying commercial fire inspections, multiple dwelling inspections, code enforcement, property maintenance.
Right.
I don't think he's thinking just administrative.
But I agree with George. I think we should get the ball rolling because it's going to be, I think, very important to get somebody in that role. There'll be, a certain level of training, I imagine it would go on, but to be ready June 1st would be appropriate. So, I mean, things will slow down right now. I mean, as winter comes in, and none of these building projects are started. So June seems like would be the appropriate time, but to start the process in June would mean we wouldn't see maybe something until July, and I don't think we can wait that long, so. Okay, and I'll move on to the report from the village attorney. Steve, do you want to give us a, either summary or just highlights?
Sure, no, I'll just give you a summary. I think everyone's relatively familiar with this. St. Anthony's wants to erect 2 new buildings. Actually, one of them is replacing existing trailers, so I think they use for the MRIs. And in the course of getting approvals from the planning board and the zoning board, both of which they've gotten, it was determined that they needed to get a special permit from the village board. And in the course of looking into that, it was determined that the one special permit that they'd gotten in the past had expired, and very probably the main campus pre-existed the law that required a special permit. So in order to kind of clean this all up and just make them a regular conforming use, they've applied to this board. Initially, it was for a special permit just for the 2 new buildings. Now it's for a special permit for the entire campus, existing campus, and the 2 new buildings. So you've received a report from me explaining what the process is. You've received a report from the engineer saying that they see no problems with the application as far as, what's being, saying things is there already, So the next step will be to schedule a public hearing. I believe you have a resolution on for that tonight. Hold the public hearing and then make a determination on the application for a special permit for the entire hospital, new buildings and existing.
So Steve, I understand the concept, but I'm curious about maybe oversight and protection in the event that, there's a larger scale development that is suddenly planned. And so now there's no, kind of administrative piece or, the kind of eyes that would start with a special use permit.
You raise a very good point, Michael. In granting the special permit, the board has at least 2 options. You can, of course, attach conditions. Heck, you could even make it for a limited time and they have to come and renew it however many years. And that's actually been done in the past. But basically the 2 options are that you can grant a blanket approval for use of this property as a hospital. And as Michael says, if you do that, then if they come back for site plan approval, amended site plan approval, they would just go to the planning board and they could, as long as it meets the planning board's criteria, build whatever they want. Or you could grant a special permit for limited to what's there now plus the new buildings. In which case, if they want to put any new buildings up, they're going to have to come back to the village board for amended special use permit. Like I say, there's shades and variations you can go with off that if you're concerned in, for example, new construction over a certain square footage. You could grant approval and have that as a condition. But basically, those are the 2 types of special permit to choose from. As you develop concerns, let me know, and we could certainly work off them.
And then the only other question I had was, when you say the entire hospital campus, that would include Sevier and Mount Alverno, correct? So
I'm not sure what you mean by that, Michael.
The campus is relatively large. It includes the hospital, which is front and center, but then behind it is a senior care facility, which is the Sevier Pavilion. And then beyond that is Mount Alverno, which is assisted living. So
the application's only for the Maple Street property.
Okay,
So that's all you'd be granting a special permit for.
okay. Very good. Any other questions? Any questions for our council before we continue? Okay, thank you. That was correspondence this evening. Privilege of the floor. Raina, is there anyone who has made comments or?
No.
No. Okay, so we'll move forward to motions, and Trustee Cheney, you are going to get a workout tonight.
Yeah. All right, let's get started then. Number one, resolution authorizing submission of a New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act WIA grant application for the Village of Warwick Water System Improvements Project. Whereas the Village Board of the Village of Warwick duly caused to be prepared a preliminary engineering report recommending improvements to the village's reservoir water storage tank and well number 3 water treatment system. And whereas the proposed improvements to such water system components includes upgrades such that well number 3 will meet the EPA's surface water treatment rules for groundwater under the direct influence of surface water, and the reservoir water storage tank will meet the recommended standards for waterworks. And whereas the project will include construction of a new water storage tank, replacing the existing reservoir tank, and construction of a new treatment system at well number 3 to include cartridge filtration, a UV disinfection system, and a chlorination system to provide disinfection residual. And whereas the opinion of probable project costs of these improvements is $4,061,800, and whereas the village board now desires to pursue grant funding for the project under the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act program. Now therefore be it resolved that the village board of the Village of Warwick, Orange County, New York authorizes the submission of a New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant application, and be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to submit an application on behalf of the village for grant funding under the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act program, and to execute any agreements, instruments, or other documents in connection with the village's acceptance of any such grants and or the funding thereof. And be it further resolved that the mayor may authorize any required local match required with respect to financing or grants awarded to the village for the project through the use of cash and or in-kind services, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Barry, there was a change in the numbers, the financials. Could you just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, basically, the mayor and I had a meeting with Pittengarrow and Doach, who are engineers for the well number 3. And as a result of that, there were some recommendations that they made relative that would impact the cost. So the cost of well number 3 increased by I'll do the math. What did it end up being? Probably about $500,000. So
Measure twice, count once. Right?
Yeah.
Or count twice. Never mind.
And we were also, the victim of the increased construction costs and material costs. That's, caused both projects to increase.
Okay. So we have a second. It's a roll call.
Trustee Cheney,
Yes.
trustee Lindberg,
Yes.
trustee McManus,
Yes.
trustee Bachman,
Yes.
Mayor Newhart.
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, Village of Warwick Plan of Finance Resolution. Reservoir water tank replacement and well number 3 treatment plant improvements. Whereas the Village of Warwick owns and operates a municipal water system serving the village, and whereas the village is currently in the design phase of the reservoir water storage tank replacement project in response to the tank being near the end of its useful life. And whereas the village is also currently in the design phase of the well number 3 treatment plant improvements project in response to determination letter from Orange County Department of Health designating well number 3 as under the direct influence of surface water. And whereas the current engineer's opinion of probable construction cost for the reservoir water storage tank replacement and well number 3 treatment plant improvements project is $4,061,800. And the village intends to submit an application to the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act program for 60% of eligible costs related to the project. And whereas the Board of Trustees of the village has conducted public information meetings to take comments from the public on the village's proposed improvements to the water system, now therefore be it resolved that 1, the Board of Trustees hereby establishes the reservoir water storage tank replacement and well number 3 water treatment plant improvements projects. The project shall involve replacement of the reservoir water storage tank and improvements to the well number 3 treatment plant, including the construction of 2 600,000-gallon water storage tanks, demolition of the existing reservoir tank, connection of the 2 new tanks to the existing water system, construction of a new water treatment plant at the well number 3 site that shall include cartridge filtration, UV disinfection, and a chlorination system, site restoration, engineering services, associated administrative and legal services, and other ancillary costs necessary to complete the projects. 2, funding for the project is anticipated to include WIA grant funds up to 60% of eligible project costs and a municipal contribution through supplement with capital reserve funds and or bonding as needed for the remaining project costs. Upon completion of the project, the well number 3 treatment plant and the new reservoir water storage tanks will merge into the already existing village water system.
Second.
Any comments?
What's the time frame for this, Mr. Cheney?
Well, for the application's due next Monday. It's probably going to be 6 months, so early into the year, late winter, early spring, we should have an idea as to whether we're going to get any grant funding. The design of the water storage tanks at the reservoir is complete. It's been submitted to the Orange County Health Department for their review. So we are basically shovel ready with that project. The treatment plant for well number 3 is probably 75 to 80% complete. So we're not far from that being complete. That has to be submitted after the design is pretty much put together. That has to be submitted to the DEC for their review and approval. After which, once that's received, then it comes back to the engineer, who then has to put together the bid package to put it out to bid for us. That's probably something that I wouldn't expect would be shovel ready until around mid-year of 2022. So, we've got 2 projects that I think we're in a very good position to demonstrate to the WIA grant reviewers that are ready to go, which is important to them. And I wouldn't discount, and we will look at the water infrastructure, or the infrastructure program that's, I guess, just signed by the president today, to find out if that can supplement what we might receive from a WIA grant, or maybe replace the need for a WIA grant. Those of us who were on the board back in around 2010, when the microfiltration plant was done, that was done with federal stimulus money. So it was pretty much paid for at virtually no local cost. I mean, we all paid for it in our taxes, but it wasn't directly paid for by the taxpayers. So here in Warwick. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
And then- Okay, any other questions? Again, this is a roll call vote.
Trustee Cheney,
Yes.
trustee Lindberg,
Yes.
trustee McManus,
yes,
trustee Bachman,
Yes.
Mayor Newhart.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to number 4, right?
Yes.
Whereas resolution adopting a negative declaration under seeker. Whereas the village board has undertaken a project for parks trail development in Stanley Deming Park, Memorial Park, and Lewis Woodlands Park. And whereas the said project is in action subject to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas the village board as lead agency in seeker review has caused to be prepared an environmental assessment form, parts 1, 2, and 3. And whereas the village board, as assisted by its consultants, has considered the potential environmental impacts of the proposed action, now therefore be it resolved as follows: the village board accepts and approves the said EAF parts 1, 2, and 3, and the mayor is hereby authorized to sign the same. And that after considering all of the information presented to it, including the EAF, the village board adopts the negative declaration under seeker attached here too.
second,
Any questions?
Sorry, did we?
not
skip
on this,
three?
but you skipped resolution number 3.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say, when you said
Sorry
4, I
about
was
that.
like,
That's what I said. We're on 4, right? And
Yeah,
I just went ahead.
Yeah, we couldn't
finish,
stop you. You were
finish
like a
up
freight
4 and
train.
then go back to 3.
Yeah.
Need the vote on it.
Yes. So we have a second, so it's a roll call vote again.
Trustee Cheney,
Yes.
trustee Lindberg,
Here.
trustee
Yes.
McManus,
Yes,
trustee Bachman,
Yes.
Mayor Newhart.
Yes.
Okay, back to number 3. Resolution determining that the reservoir water storage tank and well number 3 improvements project are type 1 action and will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. Whereas the Village of Warwick is proposing improvements to the existing Village of Warwick water storage tank and well number 3 water treatment plant. Whereas the project has been classified as type 1 action as defined by the State Environmental Quality Review Act in 6 NYCRR Part 617.4. And whereas on November 3rd, 2021, the village caused a letter and Part 1 of the EAF to be sent to other potentially involved agencies and interested agencies, as these quoted terms are defined in the regulations, indicating the village board's desire to serve as lead agency, as the quoted term is defined in the regulations, for a coordinated review under seeker of the project. And whereas it is anticipated that each of the involved agencies or potentially involved agencies will agree to or raise no objections to the village board serving as lead agency for a coordinated review under seeker of the project. And whereas pursuant to the regulations, the village board has considered the significance of the potential environmental impacts of the project by A, using the criteria specified in section 617.7 of the regulations, and B, examining the EAF for the project, including the facts and conclusions in parts 1, 2, and 3 of the EAF, together with other available supporting information to identify the relevant areas of environmental concern, and C, thoroughly analyzing the areas of relevant environmental concern. Whereas part 1 of a full environmental assessment form has been completed, reviewed by the Village of Warwick Board, and will be circulated to all interested and involved agencies for purposes of establishing the Village of Warwick Board as lead agency in accordance with 6 NYCRR Part 617.6B. Now therefore be it resolved and determined that the village board hereby establishes itself as lead agency for the project, and be it further resolved that based upon an examination of the EAF and other available supporting information, and considering both the magnitude and importance of each relevant area of environmental concern, and based further upon the village board's knowledge of the area surrounding the project and such further investigations of the project and its potential environmental impact as the village board has deemed appropriate. The village board makes the following findings and determinations. The project constitutes an type 1 action as the quoted term is defined in the regulations, and no significant adverse environmental impacts are noted in the EAF for the project, and none are known to the village board. Therefore, the village board hereby determines that the project will not have a significant adverse environmental impact and will not, and will not have a significant adverse environmental impact and will not require the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement with respect to the project. And be it further resolved that as a consequence of such determination and in compliance with the requirements of seeker and the regulations, the village board directs the village mayor to prepare a negative declaration in accordance with 6 NYCRR 617.12. And be it further resolved that the village board directs the village mayor to publish notice of and file a copy of the negative declaration for the project in accordance with the regulations. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the board? Again, a roll call vote. Raina?
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Lindberg?
Yes.
Trustee McManus?
yes,
Trustee Bachman?
yes,
Mayor Newhart?
Yes. Okay, number 5.
This is a short one. Motion to accept the bid from Amrex Chemical Company, Inc. for the delivery of sodium hypochlorite 12.7% at a cost of $1.80 per gallon per the recommendation of JCO Regional Manager Keith Herbert. The contract period will be December 1st, 2021 to May 31st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Motion to suspend pursuant to paragraph 20, the portion of the contract dated April 21st, 2021 with ESC Environmental, Inc. for services to deliver sodium hypochlorite effective November 30th, 2021, based on the failure of the contractor to provide the material at the original bid price.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Motion to hire Matthew Santiago to the position of full-time laborer at a salary of $18 per hour in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement with a start date to be determined by DPW Supervisor Michael Moser.
Second.
Mike, do you want to make any comment about Mr. Santiago?
Good evening. Yes, he comes in with the CDL already, so we'll be ready to go right out on the road. He has a mechanics background, so we'll be able to use him in the shop a lot. Young man, local roots, so seems to be a good hire for the village.
Very good. Okay. So we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Trustee Lindberg?
A resolution adapting Village of Warwick Local Law Number 3 of 2021 as amended to delete Section 2A, Article 8, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, Section 135.18. Whereas the Village Board has before a proposed local law entitled a local law to amend Village Code, Chapter 135, Vehicles and Traffic, to add traffic safety regulations and traffic control devices. And whereas the following due notice to the village board held a public hearing on a revised version of the proposed local law. And whereas the proposed local law constitutes a type 2 action under SECRA. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, that the village board does hereby adopt the proposed local law, a copy of which is attached hereto. Number 2, that the village clerk is hereby requested and direct to publish, post, and file the same in the office of the Secretary of State in Albany. And number 3, that the said local law shall be effective upon filing with the Secretary of State.
The only thing on that bill is that it should be that the village board does hereby adopt the proposed local law as amended, a copy of which is attached here too, and then we'll attach the copy with that one line stricken from it when it's filed with Raina.
Okay,
Second as amended.
Thank you.
A question. So, basically, there would be allowed to be parking, standing and stopping on the west side of Spring Street as it was previously?
yeah,
Yes, for the time being.
Right, right. And we don't have to change the first two parts of that section 2A, Article A, the ones we're deleting?
probably not.
Because if we delete them, then doesn't it open up the whole street to parking? On that side?
Well, it will keep it, well, I think that's just part of the motion. I don't think it changes the code. But it's a good question.
Well,
We're keeping the code as is.
A1 and 2 have had restrictions on where parking could occur, right? On the
Yes.
west side.
Yep.
And right now, all we're doing is removing the ability to park on the west side entirely, which means if we don't leave those first two in, the whole street's open to parking. I think we need to have this just take out all of A.
I did, well, yeah. It's
Oh, we
2A.
did.
Yeah, it's 2A.
I thought we were just doing A3.
That's 2A.
2A, 1, 2,
Article
and
8.
3.
All right, so you made the motion to take out 2A, 1, 2, and 3, Bill? Is that what happened?
Yeah. that's
Okay,
what I-
if that's what the board's voting on, that's fine. Then I was under the impression it was just 3. But if you want all of them out and that's the motion you made, that's fine.
For the
Good.
time being. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, you can revisit it.
Okay. So we have a second, and again, it's a roll call vote.
Trustee Cheney,
Yes.
trustee Lindberg,
Yes,
trustee Bachman,
Yes.
trustee McManus,
Yes,
Mayor Newhart,
Yes,
make a motion to amend the Village of Warwick Schedule of Fees effective November 15th, 2021 to add under the heading Parking Permits under the subheading First Street Parking Lot the following: type of fee, tenant parking permits Monday through Sunday, 24 hours per day per year, $400. The amount being $400.
you have the second?
second question.
Yes.
What's the fee in the other lots? What is the fee in the other lots
For
Same.
tenant parking?
for overnight parking?
Same.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Make a motion to approve the budget modification and transfer request as per the village treasurer's memo dated November 8th, 2021.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to grant permission to the Albert Wisner Public Library to use the east side of Stanley Deming Park to hold the Children's Book Festival on Saturday, October 8th, 2022, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. as per their letter dated November 5th, 2021. Permission to include 3 food trucks to be parked on the grass between the creek and the handball courts on the west side of the park. A 3-foot by 14-foot banner to be hung on the fence to the right of the main entrance of Stanley Deming Park, facing the intersection of South Street and Parkway from Sunday, September 25th, 2022 through Saturday, October 8th, 2022. Festival tents to be set up beginning at 11 a.m. on Friday, October 7th, 2022, and removed by Sunday, October 9th, 2022. use of Stanley Deming restrooms, Uncle Brothers Band to perform a children's concert under the bandstand for 1.5 hours during the event. All activities must be in accordance with New York State and Orange County Departments of Health, completed facility use permit, proof of proper insurance, and security deposit have been received.
Have a second. Any questions?
Discussion? Yeah. One of the things that was noted in the letter that was received as part of the application was that the festival would intend to seek permission from the Warwick Valley Central School District to use the parking lots adjacent to the Park Avenue School. And that's great. I know they've done it in the past. I just like the motion to be amended to include that, and maybe before, just prior to the last sentence, just approval contingent upon obtaining permission of the Warwick Valley Central School District to use the Park Avenue School for parking.
And what happens if they don't approve parking?
Then they'd have to come, well, let me add something else, and providing such documentation 60 days prior to the event. If they don't get it, then they have to come back to us, explain why they don't get it, and we'll probably find an opportunity for them to be able to still hold their book festival with some alternate plan.
Yeah, I guess I don't disagree. I'm pretty confident they are going to give permission to use the parking lots, and that's what they have done in the past.
Yeah, the school district has always been pretty, responsive, but they usually can't make that response until it's closer to the event, especially, it's a year away, more than a year away. Any other comments? Do I have a motion for this to be seconded as amended?
I'll make that.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 I have to say no so that I don't do things contingent on getting approvals. So that we either have everything in place or we don't have it in place, but so I have to say no.
Trustee Bachman, you're on.
Resolution setting a public hearing on the application of St. Anthony Community Hospital for a special use permit. Whereas the Village Board of the Village of Warwick has received an application from St. Anthony Hospital for grant of a special use permit for construction of hospital buildings at 15 Maple Avenue, Warwick, New York, pursuant to Village Code Section 145-161. And whereas under the Village Code, it is necessary to hold a public hearing on the said application. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, that a public hearing on the said application of St. Anthony Hospital for a special use permit is set for December 20th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. And 2, that the village clerk shall publish, post, and provide notice of the public hearing as required by the Village Code. And 3, that the village clerk shall provide a referral to the Orange County Planning Department under General Municipal Law, Section 239-N.
Second.
Any questions? And it's a roll call vote again.
Trustee Cheney,
Yes.
trustee Lindbergh,
Yes.
trustee McManus,
Yes,
trustee Bachman,
Yes.
Mayor Newhart,
Yes.
excuse me, Mayor
Um,
Newhart. Dan Griffiths is also in the waiting room. I don't know if you wanted to speak with him at all.
If he would like to speak with us, he surely may, as a representative from the hospital.
I'm not quite sure what's happening. Mr. Griffith sent me an email asking a question, and he's been in the waiting room for the duration of the meeting.
Do you have that email? Can you?
I do.
Is it a question for council or a question for the board?
Well, his question is, why are they scheduling a public meeting for December 20th on a special use permit for St. Anthony's when the planning board last Tuesday voted to waive the public meeting?
Well, the planning board has authority to waive public hearings, not public meetings, for certain applications, and I expect that the site plan was one of them. That's not the case for special use permit. It's mandatory.
Okay, I believe that. That is the answer, and maybe I'm hoping that Dan has heard that. If he, I think we'll move on to reports, and if he does connect, we can bring him on to, final comments from the floor. Okay, so we'll move on to reports, and Trustee Cheney, do you have anything for us this evening?
No, I think I've said enough.
You surely have. I just want to say great work. You've done a lot of the legwork on these, on this WIA, grants, and working with the engineers, making sure all the Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted. So I thank you, Barry. Good work. Great work.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Trustee Lindberg, do you have anything for us this evening?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Bachman?
No, not tonight.
Okay. Trustee McManus? Okay, you're muted, so.
I'm gonna pass, thanks.
Okay, well, I don't have a report. I just want to just say thank you. First, thank you to the DPW who did a great job getting ready for Veterans Day this year. Whether it was putting the green lights on the front of Village Hall, getting the flags out. There's a lot of details, making sure the parade route was in good condition and that the park looked great. There was just a lot of these details that are very important for this very important day. And I want to also thank the VFW Post Commander Jose Morales and Vice Commander Carmine Garitano for organizing the Veterans Day Parade and also the ceremony. It was just a really wonderful event. It has grown over time and has become more meaningful. And I truly appreciate the hard work that they did. And I also want to shout out to Warwick Grove and the Homeowners Association that had a really wonderful veterans breakfast for the veterans that live in Warwick Grove. And I believe it was, I believe approximately 36 veterans from that one neighborhood. So, and Don Humphrey, who is the president of the HOA, organized that. It was a wonderful, Barry was there as not only as the vice deputy mayor, but also as a county legislator. So it was just a nice morning. That's all I have. Is did he connect? No. So, okay. Do we have any other comments from the floor? I think that's a sign that we can close this meeting. So may I have that motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Have a good Thanksgiving all.
Yes.